Hi, journalists. I'm going to quickly go over this assignment called Bias in Hard News Stories and demonstrate for you what you should be doing on this assignment. You may remember that we talked about a little bit about biased hard news stories. These are news stories that are written like hard news, and a reader might think they were hard news. In other words, a reader might think that they're news stories that are reporting just the facts. But um, the story is definitely hinting at one particular point of view, and it's hinting it strongly enough that it's really not accurate to say it's unbiased. So what you're going to do for this assignment is I want you to find two hard news stories that are about the same topic, and I want you to get them, one from a news outlet that is a very left-leaning news outlet, and the other from a news outlet that is a very right-leaning news outlet. So I'm clicking this link right here. See that? There's a really cool organization called All Sides that uses a pretty respectable methodology to measure whether news outlets are sort of in the middle politically or whether they seem to be kind of on the left or kind of on the right. Remember, left means like liberal or democratic, right means like conservative or Republican, and then perhaps whether they're very left or very right. And if you click that link that's in the document, you'll see this really useful graphic that summarizes what All Sides has found. C means center, and these news outlets you see in the center are news outlets that overall report hard news without much bias. These are news outlets that have a tendency to report hard news with a little bit of a left kind of slant. See down here, lean left. And these are news outlets that tend to report hard news with a right-leaning slant. Now, the news outlets you're going to use today, I list specifically in the document here for news outlets for you to choose from for very left-leaning, and here news outlets for you to choose from that are very right-leaning. And you can see they come from this document here. So very right-leaning news outlets are listed here. These are, if you go to this internet website or TV station or web page, you're going to get very consistently conservative viewpoints. Over here, if you go to any one of these news outlets, you're going to get very consistently liberal viewpoints. So for this activity, you're going to pick a news story from one of these left-leaning outlets, and these are like the extreme. I should say very left-leaning, right? That's more accurate, because it's not just like kinda. And then you're going to pick a news story on the same topic from a very right-leaning news outlet. Now, I put up here some news story ideas. These are things that have A, been in the news pretty recently, and B, they're issues that people with different political opinions tend to disagree about. But you don't have to pick a story on one of these topics. You could pick a story on anything you want as long as it's the same topic from both news outlets. And what you're going to do is you're going to paste these two stories. So on the left, you're going to paste the story from the left-leaning news outlet. On the right, you're going to paste the story from the right-leaning news outlet. I want you to include the headline because the headline is part of where the bias will come across. Make the formatting the same, so make them both the same size font and the same type of font. And then you're going to go through the two stories, and what I want you to look for are things that stand out that are noticeably unique. And I want you to highlight them and use a separate highlight color for each of the stories. So one that might make sense is to use blue for the left-leaning and red for the right-leaning. Those are two colors that are traditionally associated with these two different political extremes, but it's up to you. So let's say, for example, that you chose to do what President Trump said recently about using disinfectants to treat coronavirus. Yeah, that's my child laughing in the background. Okay, stop. I'm trying to make a screencast.
Sorry.
So on what you're going to do is you're going to go to, like, let's say, the Huffington Post, and you're going to find a news story, maybe by searching Trump disinfectant, and paste it here. And then you want to go to, like, the Daily Caller or the Blaze and find a news story on that same thing. It can't just be, kind of connected. It should be a news story where the journalist is trying at least, or pretending to report the same exact facts, right? Like, in both cases, it should look like the reporter got the same assignment. Write a news story about what President Trump said, and you're going to paste it here. What you're going to find is that the one that you get from the left-leaning site is going to have an angle that makes Trump sound like dumb or ridiculous. And what you're going to find probably from the right-leaning site is it'll report the facts in a way that makes President Trump sound smart or informed and makes the media sound dumb or ridiculous. And then you're going to go through, look for any facts that appear in one but not in the other, and highlight those. Look for any quotes that appear in one but not in the other. Look for adjectives, like emotion words, that appear in one but not in the other. And you're going to highlight the stuff that appears in one article but not in the other article. It doesn't have to be word for word, like content that's different, facts that are different. Because a big part of bias is what the reporter chooses to include and what they choose to leave out. That's one of the ways that that bias shows up in hard news, because hard news is not supposed to report opinions, and it generally doesn't. But it will express its bias often in which facts it chooses to lead with, which facts it chooses to show at the beginning of the story, and which facts it sort of buries at the end of the story, and which facts it leaves out altogether. So let me just go back up here while I'm on that topic and say they need to be hard news stories, and you'll lose points if they're not hard news stories. So on all of these websites, in addition to finding hard news stories, you'll find plenty of feature stories. But don't copy and paste a feature story. It's got to be a hard news story. And if you need to look back at your notes to remind yourself of how to recognize a hard news story, you might want to do that. But basically, the headline should sound pretty factual, and in a hard news story, the first paragraph will repeat the headline and just add a few more details. The tone will be mostly kind of cold and robotic and emotionless, although on these websites, not quite so much because they're biased. And it's going to give you the facts in order from most important to least important. If you're not sure while you're doing this activity whether a story is hard news, message me or come and chat with me, and I will give you some hints to help you come to the answer. All right, that's it.